Back to the good old days, the classics where assaulting police officers is peacefully protesting. Really miss those days, didn't
Are
you?
we going to see another summer of love?
Oh, it already. I mean, every Democrat you listen to, peaceful these are peaceful
well,
protests,
technically it's
peaceful
not summer yet,
protests.
so maybe it's the spring of love.
Yeah, maybe it's they're getting us ready, these Democrat activists, for transition into summer. When's the first day of summer? It's coming up soon, right?
I think it's next week sometime.
Okay.
I don't know. You called me out on it last. I
So,
think it's
I
the
know.
20th. Something like that.
Yeah, it's just amazing how when Democrat activists are attacking police and burning buildings and cop cars and blocking traffic, that's all considered peaceful. Mostly peaceful. They throw the mostly in there, don't they?
I was watching this one Democrat elected official. I don't know who she was. And she was talking about, how horrible it was that Trump brought in the National Guard because he just can't stand to see the signs of peaceful protests. And it was like, but this is the best part. It was like one of those dual screens where it was like she was talking and then the other one was the actual footage of what was happening. Yeah. So anyway, she's going on and on and on about how it's just such a peaceful protest. And meanwhile, like, you can't even see the street because there's so much smoke, and they finally cut away from that and just focused on her.
There was CBS polling done released Friday that showed that still a majority of Americans approve of Trump's handling of illegal immigration. Now, and we'll get you updated on the latest, and this is going to come as no surprise. Of course, Democrats are lining up to defend these individuals and to blame Trump. This is all Trump's fault, see, because Trump is escalating it. Evidently, you were supposed to allow these people to take over the city. You're supposed to allow them to block traffic. You're supposed to allow them to attack local law enforcement. That's all completely. It's a blue state, after all.
It's fine.
It's a blue state. I mean, these are the things that you get to do. But Trump is the one who is escalating all this. Now, I can tell you, listen, it's been clear from the beginning that their hopes is to try and alter public opinion to be supporting illegal immigrants and illegal immigration, is to get some sort of visuals that they can sway people emotionally to their side. And they believed that there would be images of just anything that they could get. I'm sure were hoping to get images of screaming children being torn from their mother's clutches and that they would be able to really market themselves into an about face in terms of public opinion. Now, of course, they kept, as you know, tying their efforts to some of the worst people possible instead of finding, because I guess apparently they didn't exist, the innocent 4-year-old that's being deported. They would find wife-beating gang members who are just the most horrible and deplorable people on the face of the planet, and that was where they would put their defense, and that clearly wasn't a winning strategy. I'm telling you, they are hoping that someone gets killed in this, so that they can accuse Trump of turning American troops against citizens and civilians that are just peacefully protesting, and look at what he's done. This is why they're agitating things. Maxine Waters was out there encouraging people to come out and participate in this. She was being interviewed and said her message is everyone, and she said every elected official needs to be right out there with these people. They are desperate to create a spark that will lead to some sort of incident in which somebody is severely injured or someone is killed, and that way they can point to Trump as, see, we told you he was Hitler. And he is, nobody's safe. Anybody at any given moment can have the military turn against them and murder them as long as Donald Trump is president. They are desperate to make something like that occur. Now, thus far, I don't believe that things are unfolding in a way that is going to work in their favor. I think Americans are tired of this. I think they're tired of, particularly people that are just getting up, trying to go to work, trying to take their kids to school, And they can't get there because you have a bunch of people flying foreign flags, acting as if somehow they have rights that are superior to the average working person in this country. And I think they're tired of turning on the television. And I know some of us are watching it afar. I can only imagine the people who live in that particular area that already, I mean, these are the reasons people flee states like California. Because if you are a law-abiding citizen, you are just a standard individual that just wants to live your life and maybe contribute a bit to the overall quality of life in your community, you are always the last one in line. You are always the one that is expected to make the sacrifice. You are always the one that is expected, people, they go every day, they try to, these people that are trying to rebuild their homes. And, it's only 5 as of last week, only 5 permits had been issued. You have people that are, leaving California because it is being made absolutely impossible as law-abiding citizens. No matter what they do, no matter how loud they scream, or no matter how many emails they send or postings they put up, as a law-abiding citizen that is just simply trying to get their home rebuilt, they get totally ignored. And what do they see? They see the Gavin Newsoms, they see the Mayor Basses, they see the Maxine Waters. Boy, all of a sudden, they're activated and standing up for the rights of these people that are blocking the law-abiding citizens from getting to work. And I don't think this is a winning strategy. I think people are getting sick and tired of it. I think law-abiding citizens are getting sick and tired of being treated like second, third, fourth, fifth-class citizens in their own country. And for these Democrats to once again stand up with a passion they never activate when it comes to just the average person. They reserve it for people who hate this country. They reserve it for people who want to bring this country to its knees. They reserve it to people who add nothing to society. Look at these people are burning the city down. And Democrats are running, oh no, we need to stand up for them. I just don't see people who are even maybe somewhat in the middle that, we should probably support our immigration laws and our law enforcement, but I don't really know that I like everyone getting deported, that sort of mushy middle. I don't see this making people suddenly become more sympathetic to these individuals. I don't see that so-called independent person that is for some degree of law enforcement, but, not too much, saying, golly gee whiz. I really find myself on the side of these illegals that are, flying American flags upside down, that are, stockpiling Molotov cocktails, trying to light human beings on fire. Suddenly, I feel like I'm a little more to the left on this issue. I just don't see that occurring. We'll play some audio. Of course, it's, everything from using January 6th as usual to justify this. And, Dana Bash on CNN downplaying it. These riots aren't that big. It's all completely under control. Oh, really? Have you seen the footage? Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair, the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 83. And looking ahead to Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
Democrat activists flooded the 101 freeway in Los Angeles yesterday, shutting down traffic while waving foreign flags. But it's not an invasion. Videos shared online showing protesters pouring onto the freeway Sunday afternoon, prompting California Highway Patrol officers to push them back, according to ABC7. The massive crowd stopping traffic in both directions, but totally peacefully, of course. The protesters erected a makeshift barrier on the southbound side of the freeway at Spring Street and were immediately confronted by LAPD officers in riot gear. All northbound lanes were also closed, noted the outlet. As Breitbart reported, violent anti-ICE protests erupted in Los Angeles over the weekend in response to the enforcement of federal immigration laws. Some of the Democrat activists were seen throwing eggs and shouting to warn others about impending raids. KTLA video footage shows lines of law enforcement officers standing in the street as protesters taunted them, while others blocked a roadway, threw objects at police vehicles. Again, totally peacefully. They're peacefully throwing objects at law enforcement and their vehicles. In addition, a car sitting in the middle of one intersection was seen engulfed in flames. On Friday in L.A., law enforcement arrested over 40 people during the raids and search warrants execution, enraging some city officials and immigrant advocate groups. Now, let's make no mistake about this. Again, these are individuals that are in the country illegally. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about enforcing the law, not a law that was made up by Donald Trump. This isn't a scenario in which the laws said anyone who wanted to come into this country could just do so without any sort of vetting, without any sort of restrictions, and then Donald Trump came in and changed the law. This is simply about enforcing laws that were already on the books. And, of course, you've got the problem of those that were flooding across the border, and that has been essentially fixed. That took all of about 2 weeks for Trump's approach to work. But then we've got millions and millions that are here. And part of the reason Donald Trump, of course, was elected president was because he said, we will work to get these individuals out of here. Those people who are in the country illegally, and we will start with the violent criminals, and then we will go from there. Have you ever seen Democrat elected officials fight with such passion for average Americans? I mean, the way that they're out there in the streets, the anger in their eyes and their voices, all for people who are not in this country legally, they're not American citizens, and they make victims of American citizens and oftentimes of other illegals. Trump writing on Truth Social, great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles. After 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest, we have an incompetent Governor Newsom, Mayor Baz, who are, as usual, just look at how they handled the fires, and now they're very slow permitting disaster. Federal permitting is complete, unable to handle the task. These radical left protesters by instigators and often paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. Also, from now on, masks will not be allowed to be worn at protest. What do these people have to hide and why? Again, thank you to the National Guard. Job well done. Now, one of the arguments that's being made is that this was all being handled and is under control. Well, by Democrat standards, yes. Just like they had all of the fires handled. I mean, let's not forget, these are the same people. While L.A. was dealing with out-of-control fires that were saying everything's fine and we've got plenty of water, everything is just great, we have everything completely under control. Those same people are now claiming, don't worry, everything's under control, everything's just fine. No need to worry, nothing to see here. These people have no credibility. President Trump also yesterday noting that California elected officials could face federal charges for interfering with immigration and custom enforcement deportation operations, saying officials who stand in the way of law and order, they will face judges. And this is because of a concept that the left apparently has a difficult time understanding. No one is above the law. When you listen to these Democrat officials talk, about whether they are assaulting law enforcement, which we've seen on numerous occasions, or they're trying to storm ICE facilities, when they get arrested because they're being treated just like everyone else, they act as if somehow they have immunity from the law. How dare you? We get to do what we want. You can't touch us. We're Democrats. We are supposed to be able to do things the average citizen is not able to do. And so they openly act indignant when they are put on notice that they are not above the law and that they too will be held accountable just like just like you would and just like I would. But they're not used to that. They live in their little world in which they believe they can do whatever it is they want, whenever they want, and anyone who tries to hold them accountable and demonstrate that they are not above the law is a totalitarian, is an authoritarian. Tom Homan, border czar, was asked about this particular issue.
The National Guard has never been deployed in that manner by the President of the United States. What's different? President Trump is sending the National Guard to help us protect public safety here. You've seen the videos. Go to these protests and see what's happening. We got protesters making threats against officers, assaulting officers. Now, just recently, well, in the last hour, we got protests with Molotov cocktails. The protesters are purposely trying to overwhelm law enforcement. President Trump's being the National Guard. Again, I want to be clear, not just to protect the law enforcement officers, to protect this community. Because people are going to get injured. I'm telling you, the rhetoric is so high against ICE officers in this city. It's a matter of time before someone gets seriously hurt.
You said killed earlier today.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that ICE might kill someone on the streets of LA?
What I said was, if this rhetoric continues, this violence continues, someone's going to lose their life. It's an anti-Trump agenda, anti-ICE agenda, and they're going to keep coming. But we got help coming, and we're going to do our job, and we're going to continue doing that job.
You've also mentioned Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom, and there have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say about anybody. You cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien. It's a felony to impede law enforcement from doing their job.
Do you think that the mayor of LA is doing that?
If she crossed that line, we'll ask the DOJ to prosecute. Do I think she's crossed the line? I don't think she's crossed the line yet. But I'm telling you, the warning we're sending is we're not going to tolerate people attacking our officers.
Now, the latter of those two questions is legitimate. Do you think that she has crossed that line? And that was a very reasoned response. Like, I don't think she has yet. But the first of the two questions, are you actually going to arrest these people if they break the law? This is how comfortable the left has become with the belief that they are above the law. Here you have a journalist. Would you really arrest an elected official if they broke the law? Is this something that you would actually do? I mean, the question that I would ask back is, why would we not? Why would we treat them differently than anyone else? Do you think that they should have complete immunity to violate laws, particularly ones that encompass violence against law enforcement? Oh, you should hear Newsom. We'll play some news. That guy is just so gross. We've got more audio coming up. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447. KSGF, watching on full display the true backbone and passion of the Democrat Party out in California. I'm Nick Reed. We're going to get a traffic update here, and then some more audio from Gavin Newsom, Cory Booker, CNN, Dana Bash, Maxine Waters showing up to mock and taunt National Guard, asking them if they're going to shoot and kill children. Again, Democrat Party at work. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 83. And looking ahead to Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
Free fuel for the summer. This is part of what Pinnaker Honda on South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn, currently has underway as we are getting close to officially being summer. Plus, lease a new 2025 Honda HR-V, $285 a month, or a 2025 Honda CR-V for only $298 a month. You can get the new Honda Accord Hybrid financing as low as 2.49% APR. Great gas mileage, 51 miles per gallon. And then certified pre-owns, 0.99%. That is a very, very good deal for certified pre-owned to get that sort of interest rate at 0.99%. Vinegar Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn, and of course, under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. All right, let's get to some of the Democrats' defense of the rioters that we've shifted back, attacking police, blocking traffic, lighting things on fire. That is all peaceful. We're back to classifying that as peaceful, because if your cause is righteous, then it is mostly peaceful. If your cause is one that is supporting the Democrat Party, then it doesn't matter what you do. It is still mostly peaceful. Now, we've got, let's see here. Let me, what order is this? Who is this? It's a Republican Congressman on Senator Mark Wayne Mullins. I believe he's Oklahoma, if I'm correct in that. Yes, Oklahoma. U.S. Senator from Oklahoma talking about the riots on CNN with Dana Bash.
They were literally out there protesting, carrying a foreign flag. That is absolutely insane. I mean, they're not just peaceful protesters. Well, these are illegals. These are exactly why the president is trying to secure our border.
All right. Well, carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. And I just want to be clear. I just want to be
foreign flag while you're attacking law enforcement. It's pretty bad.
Now, let's just pause here. These people are so despicable. What if these were Confederate flags in the middle of riots? Would Dana Bash be saying, there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing illegal about that? Of course not. It would get to the heart of the matter, wouldn't it? It would show who these people are. But because it's a flag that is backed by their agenda, their cause, and that being a foreign flag, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing wrong with this whatsoever.
They were literally out there protesting, carrying a foreign flag. That is absolutely insane. I mean, they're not just peaceful protesters. These are illegals. These are exactly why the president is trying to secure our border.
All right. Well, carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. And I just want to be clear. I just want to be
foreign flag while you're attacking law enforcement. It's pretty bad.
That's a different question. But I just want to just state for the record that what did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot that went all across the city of Los Angeles after a verdict in the Rodney King case. This is a situation where the LA County Police,
Dana,
it's not good, but they're saying that they have it under control, and the president is sending national troops,
Dana,
federal troops, in a way that
we can look at this and we can obviously see that it is not under control. It's not under control. You and I both can see that. It's not under control. And a riot is a riot. They're throwing all types of objects at law enforcement, and the president is absolutely right. I can't say this enough. This is why the American people elected President Trump, because we are moving in the right direction.
The 92 riots that were referenced there are comparisons being drawn. And those riots, a number of people, because it escalated, got out of control, started out small, then got bigger, particularly given that those people who were rioting felt to some degree that they were righteous in doing so and that they had the backing of at least one political party. This was the Rodney King hearing in which Rodney King, hopped up on drugs, high-speed chase, police beat him. It was caught on video. And so then you have all these, these riots occurring, and National Guard would eventually be dispatched. But and I'm sure this point has been made. As they run around saying, oh, it's under control, it's under control, it's under control. Well, let's just say that in the minds of the people who run L.A., the level of violence and vandalism is acceptable. I mean, when they're saying this is under control, that's what that says to me, that we find this level of violence and attack on police officers to be an acceptable level. We have this controlled. This is what we are allowing to occur. And let's not forget, that is an attitude that is oftentimes adopted by Democrats during the Summer of Love. The mayor of Baltimore was in a phone call or some event in which she was recorded saying, let them get it out of their system. Allow them to do this. To the left, this is just therapy. And it's something that these individuals that they see as victims need to be allowed to do. So let's just say for a moment that they do consider this to be an acceptable level that they have under control. Part of the reason to bring National Guard in is, one, to make sure that it doesn't get any further out of control. And secondly, to have them there on site should it get out of control, so then you don't have to deal with the amount of time that it takes in order to get that sort of thing executed. So they're already there. They may not have to be used in any real significant capacity whatsoever, but that doesn't mean that their presence isn't needed. Now, if it turns out that just their mere presence is enough to keep things under control, what the left will do is say that that's proof that they weren't needed to begin with, and you can't create two different timelines and travel down what it would look like if they weren't there and to see what sort of violence would or would not unfold. But oftentimes, again, it's the mere presence. Let's also not forget, these are the same people who falsely claimed that the reason things got so out of control on January 6th is because Trump refused to dispatch National Guard, which, of course, he called for them to be ready and to be utilized, but every person who had a say in it said, no, we're not going to do it. Trump was the only one. And so what their current behavior is demonstrating that they're even hypocritical about the lies they tell, trying to falsely paint Trump as not caring about what goes on January 6th, and in fact supporting it. And that's the reason that he did not request National Guard, which of course he did. All those same people now are criticizing him for dispatching National Guard. So which is it? By not calling up the National Guard, does that mean that you are supportive of the riots that are taking place? Or does that mean that you are, or if you do call them up, does that mean that you are an authoritarian? Because Trump has been accused of both now. Accused of not calling them up in one instance because he supported what was going on, and in this instance, well, that's not what that means, of course. If he doesn't call them up, then that means that, or if he does call them up, rather, which he did, that means that he is a totalitarian. I mean, you get it. You and I get it. It just, whatever Trump does is bad and wrong. Even if he's been criticized for not doing the opposite in the past, or for doing the opposite in the past. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Any and everything he does, they are so deranged that they've gone right back to this, no, everything's fine. Trump's causing this. Anything that bad, anything that happens that's awful, if some sort of gang leader is committing an act of violence, we'll see that's Donald Trump's fault. Everything's Donald Trump's fault. Audio from some of the elected Democrats, including Maxine Waters, who is on the ground encouraging others to participate in the mostly peaceful protests. And then, of course, for good measure, some lies about January 6th. right, Maxine Waters. It really, truly remarkable how dumb voters can be. And many of you have made this point, and this is what these people vote for. I mean, it is. This is who they vote for. And while there is, sadly, a minority of people who don't vote for this, they get caught up in it. They're victims of the policies of the Democrat Party, and it just really gets to the point that you have to say, you just got to get out, which, of course, a tremendous number of people do. Of course, you know who moves it. Gavin Newsom was out peacocking one day about how, we've had a net gain of people in California. They were from other countries. They were flooding the state with people from other countries to the degree that it more than offset the Americans who decided, we got to get out of here. Democrat Congresswoman Maxine Waters decided to utilize her time and credibility to show up and yell at the young men and women who were there with the National Guard.
Shoot! Why do y'all go? What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid who's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did. The governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us. This is wrong, and I hope that none of you will use those guns to shoot anybody. There's no reason to shoot anybody. Don't allow them to make your service in a service where you're killing people. Don't do it. Defy them. Don't shoot those guys for anything. Thank you.
All right, so she opened up there accusing them of planning to shoot kids and then shoot her as well. These are young men and women who are there because you've got these people from a significant number of them from a foreign country threatening the livelihoods of American citizens. And you have a sitting member of Congress show up and start taunting them and accusing them of getting ready to shoot children at a separate incident, or there was, I don't know if it's the same location. It was all in the same area, and she stopped to talk with some reporters. And in this one, she suggested that they may have shoot-to-kill orders.
Stop here, where the guns are. I want y'all to take pictures of these guns and let people know that they're in our city with guns, and I'm sure they have orders to shoot and kill. I don't know, but otherwise they wouldn't have guns.
Incidentally, for all the talk about the sowing of chaos and confusion and causing people to be scared, what do you think does that to a greater degree? The President of the United States sending in National Guard in order to assist local law enforcement, or sitting members of Congress running around claiming that the National Guard is going to shoot kids, that they may have shoot-to-kill orders. I mean, I don't know that they do, but why else would they have guns? Which, of course, on its face is a remarkably stupid statement. Gavin Newsom, Cory Booker, more coming up. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Ozarks Elder Law. No other law firm, or not like other law firms, I should say, that oftentimes will charge you hourly. That's not how they work. Now, with 10 locations across the Ozarks, they make it very simple. After your free consultation, you're going to know exactly what your next steps are. Make an official plan, whether this is planning for a death in the family or for rights to make medical decisions for another family member, or all of it. And maybe you don't even know what it is that you need. This is all part of that consultation, and then they'll let you know, all right, in order to get done what needs to be done, here's what we're looking at in terms of cost, and it's one price, so you don't get nickeled and dimed. None of this hourly or quarter-hourly stuff that so many other law firms do. Ozarks Elder Law, for any and all of those needs. Reach out to them, get that consultation, ozarkselderlaw.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Mayor of L.A., who so famously and successfully handled the L.A. fire situation, is out there now, making sure everyone, of course, knows that she's got this riot situation with all these foreigners and Democrat activists attacking police officers, blocking traffic, and, of course, Donald Trump. He's the bad guy.
It's their First Amendment right. But people should also exercise that right peacefully. We do not want to play into the administration's hands. We're working with officials, we're organizing resources, but what we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation, but we need to be real about this. This is about another agenda. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy.
So actually the plan and the policy is very clear. If you are in this country illegally, leave. How that is confusing is beyond me. And there have been a number of ways offered up, including using that handy little app that the Biden administration launched to help facilitate people coming into this country. You could use it, get a free flight home, and $1,000. So that opportunity's been there. Still there, best I know. Every action that's being taken by this administration is to make sure that our immigration laws are enforced and that people who are in this country illegally leave. That's pretty straightforward. That does not seem it's not confusing. But this is what they want. They want to portray this imagery that all of this chaos is because of a president who has a policy of enforcing the law. And they run around saying, oh, no, peacefully protest. But if you don't, it's Trump's fault. And essentially what she did and what other Democrats have been doing is giving a list of reasons that it is okay to attack law enforcement. Oh, if you raid Home Depot or you do this or you do that, this is what's going to happen. They can't help it. And, all of this peaceful protesting that's taking place is fantastic, but there may be some non-peaceful protesting, but that's because of Donald Trump. This is already laying out the excuse and the justification for continuing these riots. Here's Cory Booker.
What is your response to President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard?
Look, since years before I was born, law enforcement knows it's good when there's cooperation and coordination. For the president to do this when it wasn't requested, breaking with generations of tradition, is only going to incite the situation and make things worse. We are now at a point where we have a president who sat back and did nothing as people stormed our Capitol, viciously beat police. And then when those people who viciously beat police and led to some of their deaths, therefore cop killers, were convicted by juries, he then pardoned them all. So for him to be talking to anybody right now about responsive law enforcement to protect people is hypocritical at best.
All right, well, a couple of things here that may seem obvious. One, why would Trump coordinate with the people who are allowing the problem to not only occur, but are encouraging it? Gavin Newsom was also pitching fit. Well, he didn't run this by me. Why would he? You people are part of the problem here. You are allies of the people who are carrying out these actions. Now, as usual, they pull out January 6th as justification for any and all violence from their side. And he made the extremely false statement that Trump pardoned all cop killers on January 6th. You know how many people went to prison for killing a cop on January? You know how many people were arrested and charged by the Biden administration for killing a police officer? Zero. That was the Biden administration. Do you know why? Because there were no police officers killed on January 6th. That is a lie. And incidentally, even aside from that, Trump did not pardon every single person involved in January 6th. So that's yet another lie. It is almost impossible, seemingly, for these Democrats to open their mouths without lying about something, which tips their hand, and it shows us that even they know they're on the wrong side of this. When you have the truth on your side and you believe you have the truth on your side, you scream the truth. The fact that consistently, while they are pushing back against Trump for enforcing our immigration laws, they have to throw things in there that are not true. What does that tell you? It tells us that they know they're wrong. Because people who know that they're right and have the truth on their side don't have to lie about stuff, which they do every single time they open their mouths. We're scheduled to have Congressman Burleson in the upcoming hour. We'll get the latest from him, also his thoughts on this. I'm sure we can probably get an idea of where he's going to come from on it. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line KY3/NBC wants us to know that the protesters initiated the protest after the National Guard arrived. They are changing the order of events. Well, of course. And all they have to do is just get some Democrat to claim that. And then they carry it, and they feel, hey, we've done our job, right? It's not us. Saying, no, I didn't see the specific report, but of course they're going to do this. The narrative is this is Trump's fault. It's all Trump's fault. Trump must have handed out all those flags from other countries. He must have been filling up those Molotov cocktails. It was amazing. I saw some of the protesters that had professional-made signs. I wonder where that came from. Signs that said ICE out of L.A. They look like what you would see as a yard sign or a
Sign
yeah, like a
almost.
campaign sign. Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, you have the handmade ones, but it's amazing and how quickly those came about. Now, they're already, of course, learning how much of this money is coming from these left-wing organizations, and a lot of it is fundraised through that Act Blue, which is a Democrat left-wing fundraising site. It's under investigation currently for potential illegal activities. Not related to this, but other potential or alleged illegal activities. Yeah, I mean, this is all of this. This is pre-planned. This is not anything organic. And you know it's going to turn out, and there's already been some evidence of this, that, not these different entities that receive our tax dollars are going to fund much of this. And it is all crafted and created by the left. It's the same thing that we saw last time, with the so-called Summer of Love. It's the same operation being run by the left. And that is fund what essentially comes down to domestic terrorism, burn cities to the ground, attack law enforcement, along with the media. We'll make sure you understand it's mostly peaceful, and it's perfectly legitimate. And it's just the quote reason is different this time. Last time it was for the great George Floyd. This time around it's for the illegal masses that have come into this country. The way that the left utilizes that in order to destroy our cities, all in an effort to just break our society down and rebuild it in their image. It's the same thing. This is how the left I'd say it really started to evolve during the Obama era. This is how the left has decided to operate. It is no longer the Democrat Party of once upon a time. This is the Democrat Party of today, and it has been for a few administrations now. When we're not in power, we attack people and burn things to the ground and throw our support behind people that aren't here legally or who beat women or any list of offenses. The longer, the better. While expecting law-abiding citizens trying to get to work or that own a local store or just want to walk through the streets safely with their kids, we're all told we have to take a back seat to these people. And we're the bad guy. You are the bad guy because you just want people to be held to the same standard that you are. And that is, you're supposed to follow the laws. That's it. Why is that so hard? And why is it that the left insist on carving out these certain segments of the population and encouraging them not to enforce the law or not to worry about breaking the law, violating the law, and then come out against the institutions that are there in order to make sure that these people are held accountable? There is a Democrat member of Congress, Representative Norma Torres, who posted a TikTok Friday that simply said, ICE get the blank out of L.A. so that order can be restored, offering aid and comfort to the enemy. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 83. And looking ahead to Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, I was looking at, I don't know, maybe it was Zillow, and there was a lot for sale to build a home on. It's 0.3 acres. It was like 80 grand. That land is expensive, yet when we purchase a home or build a home on the land, we don't utilize it. I mean, per square foot, it is expensive stuff, yet we don't capitalize off it. Well, some of us do, and that is taking some of that and making it an outdoor living area that you can spend just as much, if not more time, in the outdoors, in your own home, in your own backyard or your front yard. Spend as much or perhaps even more than you do inside. And I think it's just good sometimes to get outside, to enjoy nature, and you can utilize that very expensive land that you purchased with your home in order to do just that with Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. Their site, hunterhardscapes.com, whether it's full-blown patios or sod installation, garden bed construction, drainage solution, landscape lighting, sound, just making it exactly how you want it, and you may not even know what the possibilities are. That's part of what they do as well. You can visit their site. They have a real neat before and after slider deal where there will be projects, and you can click and slide back and forth to see the before and after. There's also a ballpark pricing tool in there, so if you have somewhat of an idea what you're looking to do, it gives you just a ballpark. It's not like an official price quote, but gives you a sense of what it is that you're looking at in order to take advantage of that outdoor living space that you have. HunterHardscapes.com, also KSGF.com under Nick's endorsements. Now, we are going to talk with Congressman Burleson coming up here in just a couple of moments. He's going through security just moments ago at the airport in order to head back to D.C., so we will, as soon as he is finished getting through that, we'll have him on with us. Kamala Harris releasing a statement about the Democrat activists riding through the streets of Los Angeles, and she notes, Los Angeles is my home, and like so many Americans, I'm appalled at what we are witnessing on the streets of our city. Oh, good start. Oh, but here it goes. Deploying the National Guard is a dangerous escalation meant to promote chaos. In addition to the recent ICE raids in Southern California and across our nation, as part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division. This administration's actions are not about public safety. They are about stoking fear of a community demanding dignity and due process. Protest is a powerful tool essential in the fight for justice. Yes, keep it up. Throw more bricks at police. Burn down more buildings. We need more Molotov cocktails. This is part of the essential fight for justice. She went on to say, as the LAPD mayor and governor have noted, demonstrations in defense of our immigrant neighbors have been overwhelmingly peaceful. I continue to support millions of Americans who are standing up to protect our most fundamental rights and freedoms. So, again, back to the mostly peaceful thing. So does this mean that if only 49% of the people are committing acts of violence, that this is thumbs up all across the board? This appears to be the approach of the Democrats. As long as 50.01% aren't trying to light police officers on fire, then hey, we're all good here and Donald Trump is the evil guy. I mean, this is the standard that they've crafted. This is the same individual that encouraged people to give money to that Minnesota Defense Fund, whatever its official title was, that would be used to bail out criminals that were attacking police officers during the Summer of Love, burning down buildings. Two of the individuals that were recipients of that fundraising would commit a murder after they got bailed out. This, again, this is the Democrat Party of 2020. Well, it has been for some time, and many of us keep saying it is not getting better. It will get worse. We're going to take just about a minute and a half, then Congressman Burleson will join us. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Congressman Burleson is with us, and of course we will get your thoughts, the latest with the budget, how things stand there. Did want to get your thoughts as increasingly Democrats claim that the riots in L.A. that are being at the very least participated in by people carrying flags of foreign nations, of course, Molotov cocktails, the standard sort of weaponry being used against other citizens and law enforcement. Democrats, on one hand, continue to say that it's mostly peaceful, but then on the other hand, recognize that they're not mostly peaceful, but that's Donald Trump's fault. Your thoughts as these events unfold?
Yeah, this is not a peaceful protest. This is violence. This is an invasion. I mean, you have people waving a foreign flag, throwing, violently attacking our law enforcement and our military in the process. I don't know what else you would call it other than an invasion.
I know.
And so, to me, everyone should be considered like a combatant whenever they're acting like a combatant in an activity like that. at the very least, they should all be arrested, vetted, and anybody who's not here legally or on visa should be sent home immediately. And anybody who is here, if they committed a violent act, should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That is, I mean, at the end of the day, the rights that U.S. citizens have should not be conveyed to people that are here, either, here on visa or as foreign individuals, illegal immigrants.
Now, once upon a time, the position that you just expressed would be completely nonpartisan. You would have Democrats and Republicans alike agreeing with exactly what you just said. However, the Democrats over the last couple of decades have completely switched around, and now not only are they seemingly okay with this, we find out it's left-wing organizations that fund this sort of thing, and they openly are, Maxine Waters was there yelling at some of these guys and gals in the National Guard, asking them, are you just going to shoot kids? I mean, it's just...
Right.
And then they say Trump is the one that's scaring people, while you have Democrats running around telling people that the National Guard is going to shoot their kids.
Right. And there's a lot of comparisons to J6, but let's like on J6, the Democrats went nuts and prosecuted people for some people who never even went to the Capitol on J6, never went to the building. Some people never even went to the city. They prosecuted. And a lot of people who just peacefully walked through the building, they prosecuted. And there were certainly people who committed a violent act that should have been prosecuted and were. And that's what I'm saying should happen today. If somebody's there peacefully, they're not doing anything, they're just there, that's fine. But if you are committing a violent act and you are, at the end of the day, you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But I'm being consistent on this.
Right. We're talking with Congressman Burleson. Let's talk about the budget, big, beautiful bill on the Senate side. I can never tell when it seems as if there are difficulties in the Senate, if it's because the cuts are too much or not enough. I think sometimes you perhaps get a little bit of both. Of course, then last week, Elon Musk really being critical of it and that whole thing that occurred as the back and forth and the public spat and so forth. So how do things stand now when it comes to this budget situation?
Yeah, I think there are some conservative senators that we meet with regularly that are going to they consider it, taking the baton of the cuts that we made, and then going further and making more cuts. And I think that there's larger group, thank goodness, than some of the Murkowski and Collins and Hawley, who don't want to make some cuts on Medicaid. But I think that at the end of the day, they'll try to figure out a way to get them on board as well without having to. But what we've made it very clear in the House is Freedom Caucus came out with a letter last week that said that this has to come back better. But if you send it back any worse, if you water down any of the spending reductions or any of the cuts that we fought so hard for, we are all an absolute no on the bill. And so that sent the message that you can't send us something that's weaker than the way we sent it. If anything, it's got to get better. And so I think by a group like us standing up and saying that holds a lot of water.
And then, because I know you've got a plane to catch here, just anything else? I know there are a lot of important things that are going on, but obviously, whether it's the budget or now the riots out in L.A. sort of catch the attention. What else is there that is?
This week we're probably going to work on and I hope we do, and we have to. If we don't, I will be very publicly shaming our leadership if we do not bring up the DOGE cuts. The White House has submitted a very modest rescission at the tune of about $9 billion in cuts. It's a very modest rescission, and it's things that are, people shouldn't be arguing with. We're defunding PBS, NPR, defunding all the crazy stuff in USAID, and let's go from there. We'll see if we're able to at least begin with those kind of cuts. And then we're also beginning the process of writing up the discretionary budget for next year. And so the committees on appropriations are going through and marking up their bills, and there's a lot of struggle to write them to the level that Donald Trump wanted, because Trump has requested quite a bit in cuts and reduction in spending. And so from what I'm hearing, there's a few members of these appropriations committees that are frustrated with that. They wanted to continue to spend more money, but thank goodness, I think we've got the Trump administration behind us on this one, because Trump wants to cut spending, especially discretionary spending.
Congressman Burleson, I did have just one other question before we let you go, and maybe it's for another day. But I know that you're on a committee that deals with things that people find to be of the odd and curious, like formerly known as UFOs, whatever they're called now. But there was a Wall Street Journal investigation that revealed, according to the information that they had in this piece here, that like all of the post-Roswell, Area 51, all of this, or the vast majority of it anyhow, was essentially a psyop that was being run by the Pentagon in order to cover up any sort of exposure of weapons that we were working on, advanced weapon systems critical to national security during the Cold War, and that virtually everything that we've known in terms of, or thought we knew in terms of, aliens and UFOs, that was all, that was the goal, was to make us think that. Did you have a chance to read that, and do you have any insight on it?
I did. And it kind of underscores where I have come at this from all along, which is that it's most likely our tech that people are seeing. It's not little green men from another planet. Now, that being said, there has been so much smoke created by the Pentagon and these groups in lying to the American people, deceiving the American people, lying directly to Congress, sometimes under oath. And if that's the case, we need to investigate that and bring them, to bear. You can't have an effort to completely deceive the American people and lie to them, creating this narrative, this false narrative. And so I think that's something. If this is true, regardless of whether it's true or not, we should investigate and follow through and determine what's true.
Well, I do find it somewhat amusing that when information like this comes out, and there are people that, like you said, this is where you have fallen in terms of what you believe has occurred over the decades when it comes to these reports. And then there are people that are skeptical and they don't believe it. And so those people sort of get portrayed as, well, of course they don't, as if there's something wrong with them. And I'm thinking to myself, your whole point was to mislead people. You can't then expect them to trust, I mean.
That's right.
It's like you kind of create that. That was your whole point, was to mislead people.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why the more that I'll be honest, like the more that I research this, the more that I think that it is it's underlying my original theory, which is that this, and what this article kind of says as well. But we'll see. I mean, the people who were some of the whistleblowers I reached out to over the weekend, asked them about this article, and they claim that the article itself is the psyop.
Okay,
that
right.
It is the smokescreen.
Yeah.
Right. That they're trying to get people off of the trail of the fact that the federal government has these programs.
Well, one way or another, no matter who's right, I guess we can all agree that we've been lied to, whether it's this or what's been happening over the past several decades.
That's right.
Yeah, Congressman Burleson, as always, great pleasure. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you, Nick.
Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, the First Alert forecast from Ozark's First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 83. And looking ahead to Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
I want a great homeloan.com. The site is a great resource, of course, also a place for you to get started on that home loan, the refinancing, reaching out to the characters in their team. There's also the 10 commandments of home loans, and it gives you 10 biggies. Some of them may seem obvious, thou shalt not be late on any payments. That thing, well, yeah, that makes sense. But also, thou shalt not apply for credit anywhere until your loan is complete and closed. Thou shalt not make unusually large deposits into your account without first consulting with your loan officer. Now, that may seem counterintuitive, right? I mean, shouldn't that be good that you have more money in your account during this process? Somebody left you some money, or maybe you sold a vehicle and for cash and you want to put that $8,000 in your bank account. That can throw things for a loop. So those 10 commandments are there at iwantagreathomeloan.com, as well as a lot of great other information and getting the process started. And there are also a number of rules outside of the big 10 commandments. This is part of what the characters in the team do in order to make sure that it goes as smoothly as possible. You don't always get handheld through the process like that. And while some people think, I don't want to be handheld, when it comes to the complete disruption of the home loan process that can cause all sorts of stress and heartache and maybe even losing out on the opportunity to get that home that you're looking to move into. Trust me, you want to have your hand held, and you want to have it held by the characters in their team at iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. There's some audio that has made its way to the web of the chair of the Democratic National Committee that is essentially threatening to resign following a recent meeting over the damage caused by David Hogg. Back in April, Hogg causing that uproar because he announced that he was going to use a separate organization that he is in charge of, and I think it was like $20 million he was going to tap into to try and unseat Democrats in primaries that were considered safe seats. And these would be Democrats handpicked by him based off of his belief that they weren't doing enough to move the country further to the left. They were too moderate, and he wanted to get rid of them. So as you can imagine, other Democrats were like, yeah, no, that's not what you should be doing. You should not be, as it was described by one Democrat, you are literally fighting against yourself. You have one organization that you're vice chair of, whose purpose it is to help keep Democrats in their seats and to expand to other areas to flip Republican seats. But then you have this organization over here in which you say you're going to fight against that cause by trying to get Democrats unseated. And this is something that the chair of the DNC clearly, who he's put in there in order to help get Democrats elected, and had a great deal of frustration. As David Hogg is the one that the media keeps calling up and getting on these news outlets and promoting his cause, which runs counter to the DNC. Meanwhile, most people don't even know who the chairman is. A point that he makes in this phone conversation that was leaked to the internet.
And I'll say, look, it has plenty of warts, and we're all trying to change those for sure. But the longer we continue this fight, the harder it is for us to actually do what we all want to do, which is make a difference in this country again. So I deeply respect you, David. I too was looking forward to working with you, but this has created a situation, and I'll be very honest with you, for the first time in my 100 days on this job, and Jessica knows this, the other night I said to myself for the first time, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And partly not because of the stress and all the naysayers, right? I'm used to that. I've spent 14 years as a chair. I'm used to getting beat up on. But, this is really everything. from this election, this credentials report, and how Malcolm's been treated in this, to the fact the election itself, how Shasti and Gina were treated in this. I'm just quite frustrated to be in this position, because what you've done, whether you like it or not, or know it or not, David, is no one knows who the hell I am, right? I'm trying to get my sea legs underneath of me and actually develop any amount of credibility so I can go out there and raise the money and do the job I need to put ourselves in a position to win. And again, I don't think you intended this, but you essentially destroyed any chance I have to show the leadership that I need to. So it's really frustrating.
All right, that again is the DNC chair, Ken Martin, at one point weirdly seeming to get choked up over the issue and talking to David Hogg. Of course, it was all Ken Martin speaking there about the total and complete chaos that David Hogg has created, making it virtually impossible for him, Martin, in order to lead the DNC in a successful and meaningful direction. This is just an example of what the Democrat Party has become, and that is an agent of chaos, even within their own ranks. You think about what was the last real focused effort, successful or otherwise, that the Democrats undertook. I don't even think the Biden's election was that campaign. It seemed to be a vacuum of focus, but not so much chaos. But even like the Hillary Clinton campaign, though she lost, there was focus there. I mean, in fact, they were so focused, they stole it from Bernie Sanders. And the Obama campaign also so focused that they stole that away from Hillary Clinton. Everywhere you look within the Democrat Party and their efforts over the last several years has been just overrun by total and complete chaos. And this creates conflict between those that are the agents of chaos in the Democrat Party and those who are trying to have a more focused, meaningful effort. DNC Chair Ken Martin would be one of those. This is all created, this chaos was created by the Democrat Party. And the seeds really began to be planted during the Obama years, in which they just were allowing these young people to work their way in. And because they recognized not just that they needed those younger people as part of their voting base, but oftentimes younger people are willing to do the grunt work. And so you get those people in as interns on a college level. You get those people to make the phone calls and to go door to door. And the problem that began to occur, which was created, again, is some people, young people on the left, think that they know everything. They're narcissists. They believe that they are inherently special and have all of the answers. They see themselves as enlightened. And what was occurring is you had the Democrat Party that felt as if, those young people were important to the party, again, because of the votes and the work that they would do, but also that they could be sort of a pipeline. We got to get young people in to help us connect with young people. But they allowed them to have too much power and too much control. And it has gotten to the point now that the disciplined people, these politicians and the people that are behind the scenes that have always been trusted with the direction of the Democrat Party, whether it is James Carville behind, quote unquote, behind the scenes, or again, like the Hillary Clinton camp and those that were much more disciplined, as they are getting phased out. And the younger people that have been brought in and allowed to sort of slowly but surely have a little bit of control are agents of chaos. And much of that is because they have been raised in this environment to believe that they are never wrong, that they are totally righteous. And that is essentially, they say you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen. Every single young activist that has been brought into the Democrat Party has been treated as if he or she is the greatest chef in the world. And there is no real structure. There's no real leadership, because all of these, the David Hoggs and the Ocasio-Cortez and, Congresswoman Crockett, these nut jobs that run around saying whatever they want, they do whatever they want, and they openly talk about, impeaching Trump and, just doing the things that do not resonate with the average American person. And the media loves them because they're animated and they're younger. The problem for the establishment, if you will, of the Democrat Party, though I don't know how much of an establishment, I don't know that there is really technically any sort of establishment any longer, which is part of the problem. But those like the current chair, Ken Martin of the DNC, in this phone call, he's expressing, I don't even know how I can fix this now. You have created such chaos that I don't know that there's even any point in me continuing to try to do this. The great summer of love, the riots out in Los Angeles currently. Whether it is struggles within their own party or struggles and battles against Trump and the political opposition, they are truly the party of chaos, confusion, and violence. And virtually every operation you see, every activation that you witness encompasses those things: chaos, confusion, and violence. And while it is a monster of their own making, the problem is here in this country, it is one of two major political parties, and in some parts of the country, Los Angeles being one of them, it is the one-party rule, and they are the only party, which is why you get the results that you get. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, Patsy wrote, Josh was excellent to work with. He listened to us and then he got onto the roof and found the issue and fixed it right there on the spot. He also did a full roof inspection just to make sure there were no other complications. Josh was very personable, knowledgeable, and honest. I highly recommend him to anyone having roof issues. 5 stars for sure. And that's what you get with the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they always try to provide the best solution for you and your home. And sometimes that doesn't mean a whole new roof. Maybe you're in a situation similar to Patsy's where you just need a simple roof repair. Either way, the Pyramid Roofing Company will get you all taken care of. If it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company team out to your home, schedule an appointment with Josh today. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I'm watching video of these Democrat activists that are, again, flying flags of other countries, a lot of them flags from Mexico, and then burning the U.S. flag. I'm just thinking as Democrat voters, like, what does this say to you? I don't know how you watch this and continue to think Donald Trump is the problem. I mean, how much more clear can these people on your side make it? They hate the country. As American citizens, they hate you. They have no level of respect for our laws. They have no level of respect for people who come to this country legally, in which thousands upon thousands upon thousands swearing-ins take place a few times a year right here in this area. People who have done it legally. They're into human trafficking, which apparently is kosher with it. I mean, just it's. I don't know how you rationalize that. How, and then to see some of the top people from your political party defend it and claim Donald Trump is the problem. Listen, there are plenty. This is the crazy thing about Democrats. There are plenty of reasonable, rational reasons that a person can have criticisms of Donald Trump. Because, one, he's a human. And human beings are going to make mistakes, going to make poor judgment calls. And there's just so much room to disagree with Donald Trump as president of the United States. Why is it that the go-to are always things that at the same time are against the best interest of America? You really can't find anything else. When was the last time you listen to the level of passion these elected Democrats have in praising these rioters or criticizing and, Maxine Waters there mocking, going down to where some of these National Guard troops are and asking them if they're going to be killing children? It's sort of sicko. This is a high-ranking member in the Democrat Party. There was a point in time in which what most Americans thought of as extreme were Democrat activists spitting on veterans as they came back from Vietnam. And now you have some of these elected Democrats, they'd call them baby killers. It was one of the big things coming back from Vietnam. They'd yell baby killer at them, and that was that whole movement within the Democrat Party historically has been looked back on as a moment of shame. You have elected Democrats essentially doing the same thing, but like in real time. Openly through, the question of, are you going to be killing babies? This is a sitting Democrat member of Congress to young men and women in our military, in our National Guard, suggesting they're baby killers. And it's a bizarre thing when there are legitimate reasons that people can push back or disagree with Trump or think that he is doing things that aren't necessarily taking this country in the right direction. But this instinct, instead of approaching those issues, rallying around people who burn down buildings, who try to burn down cities, who are involved in human trafficking, who are here illegally, it's an instinct that I think normal people don't understand. I know I don't. You just think about all of the good, positive things that could be done in this country and in this world if those levels of passion were for, just regular Americans. I'm talking about the level of passion coming from elected Democrats. Imagine how much better off we'd be if that level of passion were focused on making the quality of life better in this country for average Americans. If the level of passion being displayed by Karen Bass, Maxine Waters and Gavin Newsom for people burning the American flag and throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers, if they display just a tenth of that for people who are trying to rebuild their homes in Los Angeles, how much better things would be? It's all about priorities. And I'll give the Democrats this. At least they no longer try and masquerade as being a party that supports America and Americans. And don't you dare say I don't like this country. Hey, birds of a feather. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. An Indiana public school teacher out of a job after wearing a shirt displaying violent political messaging towards Trump during a school field trip to Washington, D.C. In a since-deleted post, former Middlebury Community School teacher Tanya Lukin posed for a photo in front of the White House wearing a shirt with the number 8647. You know, the James Comey seashell numbers. When contacted, and for my social media post, when contacted and told the Center Square was reporting on the shirt incident, Tanya Lukin responded, "I do not think that would be beneficial for anyone." She additionally told the Center Square, that's a media outlet, that the trip was not a school-sponsored or affiliated trip stated in the trip registration. However, the Middlebury School Board reviews field trips each year according to the meeting minutes. Well, and aside from whether this was, that's really the sticking point here, whether this was an officially sanctioned field trip versus one that wasn't. The point here is these are the results of normalizing the idea of violence against Donald Trump, normalizing the idea of violence against people with whom there is disagreement from the Democrat perspective. Where you can have people on the left have become so normalized at the idea of attacking physically people that they have disagreement with that it didn't ever cross her mind wearing a T-shirt in Washington on a trip suggesting the assassination of Donald Trump would be problematic. That is the normalization of political violence. Greta Thunberg, she was captured by Israel. Did you see this?
I did see this.
The selfie yacht. This is so great. Now, Greta Thunberg, you may recall, was at the time the little girl. I don't even know if I think she was a teenager when the left
I think she was
propelled
like
her
13.
to fame. Yeah, somewhere around there, propelled her to fame because she screamed, "How dare you!" About the climate change and all that sort of stuff. And as usual, the left picks really the seemingly most random people to deem experts in areas. And so here was this girl from Europe who was just a teenager, but for whatever reason, we were all supposed to listen to her when it came to the direction that we should go in this country for climate change. Well, she's found a new cause, and that is anti-Semitism. She seems to have taken a real liking to that. And she and others were taking a boat to Gaza, presumably to help the people in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces interrupted the Madeleine, the name of the boat carrying the pro-Hamas activists, including climate activist Greta Thunberg, who were trying to land in Gaza but were detained Monday, local time, without any incident. The Israeli Foreign Ministry shared video of the activists on the boat as IDF soldiers handed out sandwiches. The Foreign Ministry dubbed the boat the selfie yacht, mocking the passengers as useful idiots for Hamas, because that's exactly what they are. The activists had claimed that the U.S. military had been targeting their boat with signal jamming technologies, but what they described, having their location show up on GPS maps as being on land in an Arab capital, is common experience among Israelis since Hamas launched its war on October 7th. Israel jams GPS signals near its border to confuse drones and rockets fired by Hamas and other terrorist groups. And I know I saw one report in which they were claiming that Israel used a drone to strike the generator on their boat, and all sorts of seemingly wild accusations against the Jews. The Times of Israel noted the ministry says Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg and the others aboard Madeleine attempted to stage a media provocation whose sole purpose was to gain publicity. The boat, carrying less than a single truckload of aid, it says, noting that more than 1,200 aid trucks had entered Gaza from Israel within the past 2 weeks. And in addition, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has distributed close to 11 million meals directly to civilians in Gaza. Quote, there are ways to deliver aid to the Gaza Strip. They do not involve Instagram selfies. The tiny amount of aid that was on the yacht and not consumed by the celebrities will be transferred to Gaza through real humanitarian channels, the ministry adds. The activists had hoped to reach Gaza and in doing so to encourage other ships to do the same. Unlike the Mavi Marmara, whose passengers battled Israeli naval commandos in 2010, the Maldine was not carrying weapons. Thunberg made a nearly seamless transition from a youthful career in radical climate change activism to radical anti-Israel activism, becoming a fellow traveler with anti-Semitic groups. She and the other passengers will be returned to their countries of origin, according to the Israeli government. And this is a sign of the left, their level of narcissism, and the belief that they are historic and are displays of significant action, when the vast majority of it is always virtue signaling. The only time that the left does anything really meaningful is when it's violent. So they do a lot of virtue signaling when it is for something, oftentimes, but not always positive. There just doesn't appear to be a lot of middle ground. There's no meaningful action from a positive perspective. Any meaningful action, again, summer of love, trying to assassinate Trump, LA riots that are currently underway in order to block immigration laws from being enforced. It is one of two categories. Virtue signaling or violence appears to be what you get from left-wing activists. Weather coming up in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 83. And looking ahead to Wednesday, sunny skies with a high near 86.
Streaming live at KSGF.com, also the KSGF app. If you go to KSGF.com, also the app, you can register to win a round of golf and for four. So this is a Father's Day deal for you, your father, and three of his friends, or for three of your friends. If you're, I mean, we're not going to check. We're not going to verify your status as a father on this one. But if you win, then you and three friends will get golf at one of the big Cedar golf courses. So kind of a fun thing there. ABC News has suspended their senior national correspondent, Terry Moran, because of hysterically unhinged social media postings he made about Stephen Miller from the Trump administration. Moran's lengthy post also criticized Trump. Here's some of what he posted on social media. Now, this is supposed to be an objective journalist. who is emotionally disciplined enough to write stories involving decisions made by the current administration without allowing his emotions to overrun. Quote, "The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he's the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy, but that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who's richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred only is a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That is his spiritual nourishment." The New York Post had an article about this and noted that Moran had since deleted the post. However, Vice President J.D. Vance shared a screenshot of it and responded to Moran's statement, saying an ABC journalist, Terry Moran, posted this absolutely vile smear of Stephen Smith. It's dripping with hatred. Remember that every time you watch ABC's coverage of the Trump administration. The vice president then shared his personal experience with Miller and said the network owes Miller an apology, saying, "As it happens, I know Stephen quite well. He's motivated by love of country. He's motivated by a fear that people like Terry Moran make rules that normal Americans have to follow, but well-connected people do not. It's why I fought so hard to get Trump elected, and while he'll work hard to implement the agenda, ABC should apologize to Stephen. What Terry posted is disgraceful." Miller, for his part, yesterday responded to Moran's post, saying he revealed who he truly is in his message. Quote, "The most important fact about Terry's full public meltdown is what it shows about the corporate press in America. For decades, the privileged anchors and reporters narrating and gatekeeping our society have been radicals adopting a journalistic pose. Terry pulled off that mask." ABC has suspended Moran and released the following statement. ABC News stands for objectivity and impartiality in its news coverage and does not condone subjective personal attacks on others. The Post does not reflect the views of ABC News and violated our standards. As a result, Terry Moran has been suspended pending further evaluation. I mean, listen, at this point, I genuinely believe it is good that these people demonstrate who they are. I've got a bit of a different perspective on this than I think a lot of people do. And that is, the more we know about their inability to be objective, the better. You know, there have been some media outlets that, as policy, do not allow their employees to donate to political campaigns. And I've seen instances in which some outlets may allow it, and then they'll get very upset and say they shouldn't be allowed to do it. I want to know, when I am viewing a story or reading a story, is this someone that wants so badly the person they're reporting on to not win that they take part of their paycheck to put it towards the other person? I like knowing that information. There have been some media outlets, and some of this may have changed over time, but in which, they absolutely forbid their journalists from revealing who they vote for. And there have been some journalists who have taken this approach and sort of, they painted it as virtuous of not voting. Like, as if that somehow means by default they are going to only be objective in their coverage. Terry Moran's sin here is that he revealed just a bit too much of who he is. Do we honestly think that this level of hatred towards Trump, and in this case, Stephen Miller, is something that was completely unknown to his colleagues? Do we really believe that in the privacy of conversations or in the workplace that these perspectives from Moran have never been discussed? Like, there was this shot. We had no idea that he hated Donald Trump this much. Of course they did. But he committed the sin of going just a little bit too far. I suspect he will not be fired, and I suspect that he will be put back in some sort of position of journalism. This is done just to make it go away temporarily so that they can say, hey, no, we don't stand for this sort of thing. You know, the one thing that I've never accepted from one of the postings that Vice President Vance made, and that is, there should be an apology. I've never believed in, this is just a side note, I've never believed in requesting an apology because I feel like if one is provided because it was requested or demanded, then it's meaningless. It's like when you were a kid and you were fighting with your brother or sister and then you were forced to apologize. You apologized to him. You didn't mean it. It was meaningless. And I've just never really, it's just me. There's nothing wrong with it or anything. It's not some sort of character flaw to do this. Virtually everybody does it. But I've just always thought, in particular for some of these outlets, why would you want an apology from them anyhow? I swear it's not, it's a little more understanding or understandable if you are saying, well, this person over here deserves an apology. But sometimes people say, I deserve an apology. And I've just always said, why do you want their apology from them? Does it really mean anything? Do you think that they actually mean it if they do it anyway? Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, for your home buying needs, your home selling needs, and any advice as well. I think most of us know that realtors work off commission, and so oftentimes that invites people that don't want to really spend or devote a lot of time or effort towards you unless they know that you are going to utilize them. You're going to, quote, hire them in order to make that purchase or to make that sale. That's not how Emily Johnson operates. So much of what she does is, well, auditioning herself. She has said this numerous times. She takes it very seriously. If you call her up and you are interested in perhaps having her help you sell your home or find that home, she comes as if it is, and it is to her, it is a job interview. And one of the things that she's relayed to us is how oftentimes people are smart about it, and so they'll interview 2 or 3 different realtors, and that the response she gets usually are like, oh my gosh, the other people didn't do any of this sort of stuff. I mean, all of this research that you have about my home and about the area that I'm in, and it just becomes very clear that you get so much more with her than a lot of other realtors. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just a different level of service, and that's what you get with Emily Johnson House Theory Realty. COVID cover-up probes focus on early military intel that virus was man-made, escaped Wuhan lab. Now, anytime there is additional information that's revealed, it further brings into focus that there was a cover-up about what was suspected and or known about this. And virtually every time, Fauci is right in the middle of it. John Solomon writing in Just the News that the elite unit of scientists working for the Defense Intelligence Agency concluded just 3 months after the pandemic began that COVID-19 likely was genetically manufactured and escaped a Chinese lab rather than evolving in nature, as Dr. Fauci claimed. Now, this is something that has been backed up by a number of different whistleblowers that have been interviewed in recent months by the Intelligence Community Inspector General's Office, the DIA's internal watchdog, and the FBI about the early findings from the DIA's National Center for Medical Intelligence, and whether there was an effort to keep those genetic sleuths from communicating their evidence to other intelligence agencies, government officials, told Just the News. Now, it goes into, it's a little deep into the weeds. We'll get the story posted if you want to read through it, but ultimately, it's just more of what it was that so many of us suspected from the beginning. And again, every time there's a new Freedom of Information Act request that is, revealed, made public, the findings of the request, we learn that, yes, very early on, 3 months after the pandemic began, wasn't like knee-deep in it. I mean, this was apparently, according to the information that's been revealed, it was known very, very early, that all signs pointed to this being genetically manufactured and escaping from the Wuhan lab. And behind the scenes, you had Fauci leading this charge to cover it all up. For a guy that isn't a politician, I don't know that there's anyone in the public stage that still enjoys the admiration of social media and national media and the Democrat Party in particular, yet so clearly has been shown to have lied this country all through the entire COVID pandemic. We know it from his own emails and his own text messages. This isn't a he said, she said. This is a Fauci said, Fauci said. Incidentally, over the weekend, FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that FBI agents have obtained the long-sought cell phones, plural, belonging to Fauci during the pandemic. And so, I don't suspect that this guy's ever going to be held accountable. And how much directly or indirectly he was involved in the development of this, we may never know. But what doesn't appear to be in dispute here is that he definitely worked very, very hard to cover it up. And scrubbed reports, part of this John Solomon report here, notes that the information that was provided by these scientists early on that showed, this clearly all signs point to it being genetically modified, man-made, came from a lab, that when Fauci and crew come up with the government's report on this, the report that we're all supposed to have great faith in because Fauci is science. All the information that had been provided to Fauci regarding signs pointing to this being man-made and released from the Wuhan lab on accident or otherwise, it was completely scrubbed from the report. Fauci was very instrumental in running a disinformation campaign about what we knew, or at the very least suspected, regarding the manufacturing of COVID, the origins of COVID, and how it was that it ended up spreading across this planet, killing, I don't even know how many people the final death toll is. I think we're going to eventually discover, and everyone I think will pretty much accept, this was man-made, and it did leak out of a lab. And despite what we'll learn regarding Fauci's involvement, he will still be held up and praised as Jesus himself. And why? Well, because he hates Trump. If Fauci were the first administration's version of Elon Musk, prior to the fallout, of course, Democrats would have been calling for him to have been imprisoned. If Fauci was seen as an ally of Donald Trump, somebody that was buddy-buddy with Donald Trump and out there constantly talking about Donald Trump doing the right thing and how thank goodness for Donald Trump, Fauci, there would be calls for that guy to be in prison. But if you are someone that makes sure people know that you don't like the guy, and if you utilize your credibility that is oftentimes falsely manufactured in order to trash on Donald Trump, it's like this protection cloak. And you get a pardon before you're even charged with any crimes you may have committed. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 83. And looking at to Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
I was mentioning earlier Jeff Moran from ABC being suspended upon review of unhinged postings that he made regarding Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, making a lot of personal attacks, calling him just all sorts of names and so forth. And evidently, ABC News is unaware that the average viewer already knows how they all feel about Trump. But that Jeff Moran guy, he's the one that did that sit-down interview with Trump in which he tried to claim that all those MS-13 tattoos didn't mean that you were an MS-13 gang member, and Trump wouldn't let it go, and he kept pressing him on the facts to where eventually Moran said, well, I'm not an expert when it comes to tattoos. Remember that guy? That's the guy that ABC suspended. He should have been suspended for that interview he did with Trump. I love when these journalists come to the table, make accusations, and then whenever it is that they're backed into a corner over the facts, well, I'm not an expert when it comes to this. Well, clearly, thank you for at least acknowledging that. All right, I want to play some Gavin Newsom. He's just, I know I use the word gross a lot, and I just can't think of a better word that is family-friendly to use to describe him. And when he acts like he's upset about it, just seems so fake. It drives, it's ugh. He's so sleazy. He's just so scummy in his presentation. And he is having a conversation. I don't know. This is some local journalist out of California. There's discussion about Tom Homan, border czar, who noted that anyone who breaks the law is going to be held accountable. And the media just can't wrap their minds around the fact that elected Democrats, aren't allowed to break the law and get away with it. This is just mind-boggling to them. You mean to tell me if Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass, if they break the law, that they're going to be held accountable for that? Well, this is insane. You're a totalitarian. Why is this so difficult for you people to understand? You're not above the law. You may have gotten away with a lot. And when you live in your little Democrat bubble out in California and Los Angeles, you could do whatever you want to. But when you are dealing with a jurisdiction in which your buddies and your fundraisers and your multi-billionaire backers aren't involved, sometimes you're going to be treated like everyone else. And that means if you break the law, you at least should be held accountable. This is just mind-blowing to them. So in the conversation with this journalist, Gavin Newsom, among other things, he was asked about this aspect of it and just the overall riots in Los Angeles and the National Guard.
To other interests and other things.
Do you think he was aware of what was happening in Los Angeles?
I think I'm more than aware. And obviously he was setting this up to take these additional steps.
This was a setup.
And I'm not saying he was setting things up. I'm not saying it was a setup. But clearly they were in the process of moving to these next steps because out of nowhere, just a few hours after that conversation, he moves to pull the trigger.
Now let's pause here. He's talking about the National Guard, claiming that all of this was orchestrated by Trump so that he could dispatch the National Guard like a dictator. He was responsible for all of this. The rioting, he set all of this up. These are people who have the financial backing from left-wing organizations. These are people who over the weekend had professionally made signs, like campaign signs, declaring ICE out of L.A. We're supposed to believe that Trump orchestrated that? This is the level of insanity and delusion one must have in order to believe this stuff coming out of the mouths of people like Gavin Newsom.
Under this construct under Title 10 and then created and exacerbated the conditions that are persisting today.
This is your authority normally to deploy the National Guard here. Right. You did it. We were together after the fires, and those National Guard troops have been out all across Los Angeles working to rebuild and recover this city. How did you find out that the President of the United States was going to usurp your authority and deploy your National Guard here in California?
I got a call from a staffer. No heads up whatsoever. And again, we're here to support local law enforcement. There's a mutual aid process. Local law enforcement had no needs. They were out requesting any additional resources. I've got 100 now. I have 175 CHP officers, technically trained officers, tactical teams to address Donald Trump's mess. We are here to support local law enforcement, the sheriff's office, LAPD, but they didn't need that support. He made this up. This is a manufactured crisis in order to get under the tent to start to stretch credulity and to begin the process of moving inevitably towards a constitutional questioning crisis around posse comitatus. And it's, I think, inevitable. That's where he's going.
You know, for a guy that they describe as being so unintelligent, Donald Trump, he sure manages to orchestrate some of the most amazing events, doesn't he? I mean, you listen to Gavin Newsom explain the conspiracy theory here. That all of this is something that this conspiracy is unfolded. All of this has happened because of Donald Trump. The protest because of Donald, and it's all because he has this plan to be able to utilize the National Guard in a way that advances things for his own goals of overriding the Constitution. This is it. This is the conspiracy theory. Do you know how nuts you have to be to believe this stuff? You have to be out of your mind. Absolutely nuts. Now, Gavin Newsom, who's sitting here claiming that there was absolutely no need for it whatsoever because law enforcement had all of the resources they needed. That's the same thing they said going into how many days of homes being burned to the ground in Los Angeles? In the Los Angeles area, outside of Los Angeles. That was the message we constantly heard. Oh, they have everything they need. There were offerings from local fire departments throughout the country that were offering to, and that, you know, when you have these massive events, like it's different, but 9/11, you had local law enforcement, local fires from all over the country that volunteer their time to go help out because, you know, the scope of the disaster is something that reasonably a local entity is not able to handle on their own in any reasonable way. And so it's a way for fellow firefighters, fellow law enforcement to be able to step up and help out. And when you had the offering of that help out in the areas in which people's neighborhoods were going up in a matter of seconds oftentimes, the answer was, no, we got it all under control. We have all the resources we need. Lying about water supplies. I remember playing one audio, a bit of audio at the time, and it was, you know, some official statement from somebody in government about how there was absolutely no evidence that there were shortages of water. It cuts to one of their own reporters on the scene, and the first thing she's talking about is how they're out of water. And so we're supposed to believe the same people who lied about being fully prepared and having all of the resources necessary in order to stop those fires are now telling us, oh, these aren't right. Everything's fine. Everything's taken care of. There's no need for any extra additional help here. Okay. Well, you kind of have a track record of being wrong on that stuff. Politics aside, you sort of need to recognize that maybe the Trump administration has seen your work, as we all have. Do you know how negligent Trump would have to be to go, oh, okay, I trust you on this, given what we saw just months ago? You talk about having absolutely no heart or no care for people that are actual victims of this stuff. For political purposes, you run around claiming everything's just fine when you have real-life victims in all of this. I mean, again, it's like the law-abiding citizen, the innocent person out in California that goes to work, pays taxes, hope that their kids get a good education, are absolutely meaningless to these elected officials. Meaningless. Unless you can be used as a weapon to try to demonize Donald Trump, they have no interest in you whatsoever. And right now, they're proving that by standing up for people who are in this country illegally and these Democrat activists that are carrying out these riots because they believe that they can turn the tide of public opinion when it comes to immigration policies against Donald Trump with this sort of action. And they are giving the rioters the green light to continue by saying it's Trump's fault. Every time they open their mouth, their narrative is that everything was wonderful, fine, and peaceful until Trump came along. And that it is inevitable that as long as Trump has National Guard there, bad things are going to happen. They are green lighting this stuff. They are sending the message to people who already hate Trump, we got your back. Don't worry. When you attack police officers, when you throw Molotov cocktails, we will say it's Trump's fault. It's the same MO that the left uses when it comes to Hamas attacking Jews in Israel. It's the fault of Israel. Well, it's because Israel's occupying, or they're doing this, and it's always the Jews. And the plight of the people in Gaza, it isn't because of Hamas, the evil terrorists that have complete and total control over those people. No, it's the fault of the Israelis. It's the exact same approach they're taking out there. And just like covering for Hamas, and every time Hamas would come out with some statistic about the number of innocent children that are dying or being killed, they mimicked it. They acted as a mouthpiece for Hamas, and everything Hamas said was golden and true, which, of course, was always, this is the fault of Israel. This is the fault of Israel. They are the oppressors. They're repeating that approach out in Los Angeles. This is Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump is authoritarian and he's an oppressor. They've used this tactic before, and they use it because it's generally successful with a lot of people. And their supporters, the people who hate Trump, are going to go out there and mimic this. But just like blaming the Jews for what Hamas does gives Hamas cover to do more of it, blaming Trump just tells these people who are anti-Trump already, keep it up because it's not your fault, see. They want Trump to be blamed for this. They don't like Trump. And when you have members of a major political party that are preemptively saying anything that happens that's really, really bad, it's Trump's fault, that is encouragement. You are working in tandem with these rioters. And that is why they continue to occur. It's called Aid and Comfort. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. It's going to be a hot week in the Ozarks, and if your AC is just not running up to par, I highly recommend Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. One of the best things about the Foreman team is they are not high pressure. If you want to fix versus replace, they are going to do that to the best of their ability, and I know that to be true because up until about a week ago, I had an AC unit that was 28 years old. And they never once pressured me to buy a new unit. That being said, I did finally upgrade. I couldn't be happier with the work that Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air did out at my home. So whether you need an AC tune-up or you're like me and maybe it's time to do that upgrade, make sure to reach out to Russell before summer hits. Now you can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
There have been a lot of questions about the doctor that was publicly claiming Joe Biden was perfectly fine and why exactly he was saying that when so many of us were recognizing that that wasn't true. And now we know well, for some people, it's a revelation that everyone knew he wasn't fine, except for apparently his doctor. The House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, they've been trying to get a little bit of feedback from this guy for almost a year, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and he has refused to cooperate. In a letter sent Thursday, the committee demanded, with the power of subpoena, that he sit for a deposition on June 27th. And part of, aside from his inability to recognize as a doctor that there was some level of issue here with Biden's cognitive health. There was a Politico piece last year that described O'Connor as a personal friend to the Bidens. This is how it was written in Politico, who offered medical advice and made business connections for Joe Biden's brother Jim, who was seeking government contracts from Veteran Affairs. So here you have another person that is making business connections to line the pockets of people in the Biden family. And so the clear implication here is that potentially, just maybe, quite possibly, this doctor was making a little money on the side by making these connections between people that had the ability to write government contracts or to award government contracts and connecting them up to people within the Biden family. And whether the fact that he was potentially making money because of his relationship with Joe Biden, if that in any way, shape, or form just may have contributed to his inability to recognize that Joe Biden had some cognitive issues. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. We are learning information about some of those targeted by by ICE for arrest, and of course, we're talking about in some instances convicted rapists and spousal abusers. So we see why there's such a fiery passion. The left seems incapable of finding a person to defend that isn't either a rapist or somebody that beats his wife or girlfriend, and this is pretty consistent. Glenn Beck's coming up next. I'm Nick Reed.